Hello and welcome, my friends. ThunderWizard.com YouTube channel live Q&A. Today we're going to be talking about dying in battle. Once again, as I have been doing. I don't know if it's going to change. Maybe it will one day. I have just simply driven up on you without any notice and started a live Q&A. So, I know it will take some people a while to get onto my channel to be part of the live broadcast, but if you're watching it, it's not live. I'm going to give you some opening remarks and what it is that I want to talk about. So, the Viking ideal of dying in battle. If you're not familiar with how our Viking ancestors lived and what their driving belief was, is that they believed that any warrior who died in battle went to Valhalla, and any warrior who died of illness went to the underworld. So obviously on the surface of that, it sounds like they believed that, and perhaps they did, I don't know, but on the surface, if you take that on its superficial level, then it means that in order to go to Valhalla, you have to die while trying to kill somebody else. And if you die of an illness, then you go to the underworld. But I want to talk to you about what I believe this really meant. I believe that for much of our, especially our ancient ancestors' existence, it was a necessity for those who were able-bodied to be willing to die to protect their family, their tribe, their kin. I believe that that was necessary. Because, life was dangerous. I make the argument in some of my other books that this idea of dying in battle and bravery became necessary all the way back into the Ice Ages. Now, if you go all the way back into the Ice Ages, you didn't have as dense a human population, so it wasn't so much that they were fighting other tribes, which very well they could have been, but they were also fighting for their life against, these enormous animals. You had cave bears, which dwarfed our modern bears. You had cave lions, which were enormous. You had elk with, horns that were 10 feet wide and they were 6 feet tall at the shoulder. I mean, just these enormous animals. So, going out and, killing the aurochs, for example, which again was the precursor to our modern cow, was a wild bison that I think was like 7 feet at the shoulder. That's how big they were. These huge, amazing creatures that, and if you had to take down an aurochs, there was a good chance somebody was going to die. And you did that in order to feed the tribe. So the idea of dying in battle was necessary, just for people to live and to function. So I don't want to take that out of the equation. Having said that, now that I have been, living with this and doing my best to live that idea of dying in battle, which really is about living. It's got nothing to do with dying, it's about living. And first off, I want to say I am probably going to challenge a lot of the assumptions that some of you have. And I've addressed that with some people when I talk about this. When I've shared about this, people bring up the idea of, you'll see when I start talking about it, but I'm going to challenge some of your ideas of what you think bravery is, and what you think nobility is, and fearlessness, and all of that. And I'm going to turn it on its head. Because the idea of going to Valhalla and going to the underworld isn't just about what happens when we physically die. It's about what happens here and now. You can be dying of illness right now, figuratively and physically. You can be achieving Valhalla in your life. And again, I don't want to minimize or underestimate what I'm saying here. the intensity of that, living that intensity. That's why I put in the opening credits here, I put all those pictures from movies and whatever of people screaming intensely. I know that the picture of Mel Gibson from Braveheart, I know technically he wasn't a Viking, but seeing that picture of him with the bloodlust in his eyes and the blood on his face and all of that, the willingness to live like that, with that fearlessness and intensity, is symbolic of something much deeper and much more profound. The reality is that when we are in a life and death situation, when we're in survival mode, when we are fighting, we're actually, our frontal cortex is not functioning very well. We're not really thinking on a very deep level. We've lost a lot of our ability to think and reason and analyze our emotions because, you're in a life and death situation. So I'm not trying to say that being like that in, constant rage is somehow spiritual. It's not. It's symbolic. But I want to talk to you about what this really means, and I'm coming to realize that there are some things that I have to be very clear about, because some people, understandably, because of the society that we live in, will miss some of the subtleties of what I'm saying. And just know, if I talk about the common mistakes, I'm not pointing anybody out. These are common misunderstandings about this. So first off, let's take the understanding of dying in battle. Dying in battle, again, does not mean that you're willing to take up arms and fight the whoever and die killing somebody. You'll still go to the underworld if you die in physical battle with somebody and you have unresolved emotional attachments, illusions, or unfulfilled desires. If any of those things are there, even though you got a knife in the neck or a bullet in the heart, you'll still go to the underworld. There's nothing wrong with that. All of us, if we are incarnated, most likely have lived hundreds or thousands of times before. There are some new people that show up. If you run into somebody who is, very immature emotionally, there's a possibility that's a new soul. Somebody who can't, even after they get older, if they can't comprehend subtlety and if everything is black and white, there's a possibility that might be a younger soul. Because the ability to see and think deeply, the ability to have emotional maturity, the ability to see things objectively, and the ability to look at oneself honestly and look at one's own emotional attachments, one's emotional agendas, that takes maturity, which very often comes with an old soul. Now, I'm not going to say that's a blanket statement because, nothing really ever follows a blanket statement. The underworld is the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind means you are not conscious. So this is one of the things, like if I'm working with somebody, this is one of the difficulties. If I know I'm dealing with somebody's unconscious emotional agendas, I have to weigh whether or not I reveal to them what I'm really seeing. Because lots of times what happens is people just think I'm being critical of them and trying to criticize them. But you have to pick your timing right. When, you can get to the point where you see somebody's willing to or able to see and they're starting to open up, then you strike. You shoot the arrow in and you hit the goal, and then they can see it. And sometimes it's a very painful revelation. By the way, again, this is the thunder wizard path. What is thunder? Thunder and lightning is transformative. This is not something necessarily that I seek to do. It's not like I wake up thinking, how can I shoot lightning into people and disrupt their lives? But if you work with me, if you follow this path, you will be transformed. And just by working with me, even if I'm smiling and looking at the sky, sometimes people start feeling like they're coming apart. That's not coming from me. That's coming from whatever ancestor is working through me at that time. This is the thunder path. This is thunder magic. This is why I use the Eyjolfur. The Eyjolfur is about that. It is about protecting evil. But what evil is what we're going to talk about. Evil is always self-directed negativity. Always. I don't care who you want to talk about, no matter how destructive or evil the person is, whether we're talking about Stalin or Hitler or whomever. The impetus for that person's evil started with self-directed negativity. Always. And so now I'm going to put out to you what it is that I want to address. Because when I talk about living the path of Odin, when I talk about dying in battle and what that means, what I am going to share with you, and I'll get into deeper depth with it, what I'm going to share with you is that dying in battle means that you are willing to live for one thing. And that one thing is that you achieve your greatest happiness, your greatest joy. The assumption behind this is that before you were incarnated, you came to this earth with one soul desire. Now, you may do a bunch of different things to achieve that soul desire, but you have a soul desire. And it is your responsibility to the universe to achieve that soul desire 100% to the best of your ability. Now, obviously, this is a learning ground, so we don't always get, 100%, and sometimes we have to go to the underworld and work through that, but then we want to come back and do it again. And I'm going to talk to you again about what's connected with that. But when you live for that one thing, your own selfish, true selfish, not the selfish that is destructive. And I'll explain to you the difference between that. Ooh, I'm offline here, it says. What happened? Nope, we're back on again. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what those are. What is the difference between living for true selfishness, which brings blessings to all conscious life in the universe, and living the what we think is selfish, which is destructive. The selfish that is destructive comes from an assumption that the universe will not take care of you. Those are people who steal, who lie. Those are people who harm others. Those are people who do things in such a way where acting out on what they believe is their selfish desire hurts other people. That comes from an assumption that you are not being taken care of. It comes from a place of fear. That is not what I'm talking about. When you operate from true fearlessness, it means that you have nothing to hide and that you go after what you truly want, regardless of what anyone thinks, whether that be your family, your friends, your church, your government, whomever. That your responsibility to achieve your deepest desire is more important than the love and the acceptance of others. And this is what I'm saying, is that in my experience, everything, every challenge, every destructive challenge in our life is as a result of us choosing to find a way to get what we want while still trying to appease others. Now, understand this. Everybody is going through this same challenge. Everybody on this planet has this same commandment, which is what this book is all about. I put this picture up here of this book because this explains it. The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. That book lays out exactly what I'm talking about. So go ahead and if you want to purchase that book, you know what I'm talking about. But again, what I'm finding is that when I talk about this and when I teach about how to go after what it is you truly want and willing to die for that. And dying doesn't mean, again, being stabbed in the heart, although it could mean that. It means being rejected and judged by people that you want to love you, because we all want to be loved. I've been thinking about this a lot over the past years, and especially right now, I'm really thinking about it. And I watch how people will sacrifice themselves in order to achieve love. I mean, people, I'm sure you've seen this in terms of romance. I know I've certainly done it throughout my life, more times than I can remember. But you seek the love of somebody, and you seek to put yourself, to hide some aspect of yourself or give yourself away in some fashion in order to get their love. And then what ends up happening is that you slowly start to die inside, because there is no way. This is inescapable. One of the biggest mistakes that people make in trying to go after what they truly want is that they have this idea that I can get what I want and get other people to love me at the same time. And so they compromise. Well, I'll do it halfway. But you can't lie to your soul. And what will happen is you will end up resentful. You will be resentful at them, and then because once you start becoming conscious of that resentment, then you bump into the awareness that, oh, I'm doing this so that they'll love me, and then that resentment has to go somewhere, and guess where it goes? It goes back to you. I've talked about sin. I don't believe in sin, the idea that you get punished for doing things wrong. I do believe that we suffer negative and challenging consequences as a result of self-imposed negativity. So there is only one sin, which is when we impose negativity on ourselves. And we do that. We call it shame. And what is shame? Shame is nothing more than punishing yourself so that other people won't have to. And we learn this all kinds of different ways. We learn it when we're kids. We learn it in society. We learn it however we learn it. But as sad as that is, that most of us are programmed to live in shame, and as difficult as it is, even though it's unconscious, here's the thing again, unconscious means you are unaware of it. Why are you unaware of it? You are unaware of it because it is the survival instinct connected to it is so intense, and the pain associated with it is so intense that it goes deep into the unconscious mind, which fuels and controls you. And everybody, including myself, all of the actions that we take are dictated by our unconscious. So this is why it's so important to look at this. I'll give you an example of something. I have a group of people that I go to, and the whole point of the group, for me anyway, is so that I can be around people who will reflect back to me what my unconscious is. Because that's the idea. You can't see you're not conscious of it. You need something to mirror it back to you. This is, by the way, the role of the teacher. The role of the true teacher is to give you the bitter medicine to tell you the truth and to reflect back to you in a constructive way what's going on in your unconscious mind that is preventing you from achieving Valhalla, your highest awareness. So I go to this group, and the whole idea of it is that when we just start talking about whatever, and then when something comes up and we see something in somebody, we address it in whatever way that is. And that means people get into all kinds of arguments and fights. It's like being a really dysfunctional family and all that. But, and it's really challenging to go to because we've made the commitment that we're going to tell each other the truth. Unlike in society, you can't do that. You can't constantly be ruthlessly telling people the truth of what you see because you won't be able to function, because almost nobody has that ability. So I was doing that. I was there, and I was telling a joke or something like that, and somebody responded to me in a way that he had responded to me numerous times. Bottom line was, I could tell he was upset with me. He was angry with me, but he was doing it in a sarcastic way. He was doing it in a passive-aggressive way. And that's one of my big things. Passive-aggressive, people-pleasing, kissing my rear end. That's more violent to me than somebody walking up with a gun and saying, "Give me your money." At least that guy, I know what that guy wants. The people-pleaser, you don't know what they want. They're buttering you up for something, but you don't always know. So anyway, this guy made some kind of remark, and I addressed it. And it took us a while. I had to keep sort of chipping away before we finally got to the fact that he his experience of me was that he saw me as being egotistical and whatever else. And then we go further and we find out that what that's really about is that he had been taught as a kid not to be to really shine and put himself out there, because when he did, his parents would chop him down. And so his anger towards me was really self-imposed negativity. And so it was very painful for him, and we had to like battle it out to get to that point. But that's my commitment. I don't care if this guy hates me for a day. You know, and it's tough. It's not easy. I don't want people to yell at me and judge me and call me names. I don't want that. I want to be loved and accepted just like everybody else. But in that moment, my commitment to being my true self is more important to me than his love and his acceptance. Okay, so that's just one example. But that is a lot easier than what we have to go through when we have to deal with the love of our parents, the love of our society, the love of our religion, the love and acceptance of girlfriends, wives, husbands, boyfriends, teachers, people who have real power, whom we really feel when they accept or reject or criticize us. So the idea of dying in battle means, again, let's go back. First and foremost, your only responsibility in this life is to live in such a way where you are obedient to your soul desire. And you are willing to do that even if it means your life, your reputation, your acceptance, your love. That the love of yourself, the acceptance of you, the power within you, is more important than anything or anybody else. And as many people have said, if you can't love yourself, you can't love others. But now we get to the first and most common objection that people have, and some people get very upset with this objection. Maybe some of you listening are feeling this. So I want to ask you to really listen to see how you are responding to what I'm saying. Many people will say, well, that's all well and good and that's fine on paper, but we have real world obligations and responsibilities. Job, wife, kids, whatever it is. And then people really want to hold on to the idea that you have to give your life for others. But let's ask ourselves, what is the difference between the Christian, which is Jesus? Jesus died on the cross for other people. And if you've read the book, Odin says Jesus was a coward. If you've read that book, Odin told me very specifically and very clearly why he hates Christianity. It's not about because it's a different religion. He has no problem with other religions. It's the philosophy behind it, the self-imposed negativity that it is built upon, which is that you are sinful, you are worthless, and God hates you and is going to throw you in hell, not the real hell, but the Christian hell, forever, unless you accept the sacrifice that his perfect Son begrudgingly did on your behalf in order to forgive your sins. What is the difference between that kind of self-sacrifice and the self-sacrifice that Odin made? Understand that Odin died. He sacrificed himself to himself. Jesus sacrificed himself for you. So much guilt on your head. Odin did not sacrifice himself with the intention of liberating anybody but himself. And the reason why he became the chief of the gods is because he achieved 100% complete self-awareness. The result of that is that those who follow his example, who worship him and empower themselves with Odin, Woden, he who is consumed with the fury of self-awareness. Those people who live that way will bless every conscious being in the universe. Here's something important to understand. I'm going to give you an example in my own life. My father, I've shared this before. My father died 15 something years ago, I don't know. Genius, brilliant physicist. To this day, they're still trying to figure it out. I've talked about that. A success in anybody's book, but he couldn't find it within himself. And I won't get into the specifics, but there was a manner of living that I chose to do which made him look bad in his eyes, because I chose to do something different than him, which took discipline which he didn't have. Now, I didn't do it in order to make him look bad, but he was insecure about it, and he was uncomfortable about it, and so he was constantly coming at me about it. Now, if I wanted his love, I would have compromised on that in order to get his love. And trust me, everything in me wanted it. I wanted his love as much as I wanted anything in the world. I chose to live for my own respect. And I chose to die in battle to that. And so that's what I'm talking about. Listen, it's easier. It's easier to go out and get stabbed in the throat fighting for democracy or the United States or whatever is important to you. It's easier to do that than it is to suffer the rejection and the disrespect of those whom you want to love you. Now this is called shame. That's all that shame is. It's you re-experiencing and killing yourself again, saying what a horrible person you are because you're not this, you're not that, and the other thing. And what difference does it make if you're not this, that, or the other thing? The only difference it makes is because in your mind, you were told you'd get the love of your parents, society, whatever, if you were like this. And when you don't achieve that, what do? You focus shame on yourself. You beat yourself up. You drink yourself into a stupor or whatever it is that you do. This is all that shame is. And the path of Odin is the path of without shame. Now, let me get back again to the first and most common objection, which is we have real world responsibilities. We have real world obligations. And I can't just simply focus on my own selfish satisfaction. I have to sacrifice myself for these other obligations. Now, that makes a lot of sense. Society would break down if we didn't fulfill our obligations. But there is an assumption in that, especially if you say that and you have a lot of emotional charge behind it. If you have a lot of emotional charge behind that statement when you hear me talk like this, then you are operating from an unconscious assumption. It means you're not consciously aware of it, but it's there. The unconscious assumption is this, that one, you did not choose to accept your responsibilities, that they were thrust upon you. And I've seen this. How many people do you know? I've seen it my whole life. How many people do you know have chosen to get married and have kids? Either for their parents or to get the love of their husband or their wife. I've seen it on both sides. I've seen women who have chosen to have children because their husband wanted them to. I've seen men choose to accept becoming a father because their wife wanted to have kids, even when they didn't want to. And never have I seen that work out well for anybody. Never. And so what ends up happening is that you cause destruction to yourself and to others. Most of us think we're not hurting each other. We focus in on ourselves and we give ourselves cancer or heart disease or whatever it is. And you end up, and then the dying of that disease and what people have to go through while you do that, that is you punishing other people. Because you're mad at yourself because you chose to do something you didn't really want to do. I told you this was gonna be a painful lesson to hear, but this is Odin. This is how Odin does things. Now, this is why dying in battle will ensure health. And listen, I have to live up to this. You know, I'm 53 now, and I'm in great physical health. In fact, I got hit on by some 20-year-old hot-looking who didn't know how old I was, and I'm like, wow, that's going on. That's great for right now. I have no guarantee. I have to keep living this. I haven't achieved anything. I have to work this every day. I have to make these decisions every day of my life. I'll give you another example. Today I was at my girlfriend's, whom I love. I love her so much. There's nothing I want more in this world than her love. But you know, she is part of this society, and there, you know, I have to tell people where I'm at. I have to give them the benefit to know how I live. And they have to choose whether or not they want to live with me according to my values and my standards. So it's going to sound really petty what I'm going to say. But this is how important this is to me. So I went over to her house today. And she had said to me, I need to set up a couple of things because she just moved into a new apartment. It'll only take 5 minutes. Can you do this, that, and the other thing? And I looked at the things she wanted me to do, and I said, that's going to take a lot more than 5 minutes. And she said, no, it'll just take 5 minutes. And I said, okay, but we're going to talk about this. Sure enough, of course, it didn't take 5 minutes. It took like 45 minutes. And then we had to go do something else and something else. And so I sat her down and I said, listen, if you have something that you want to do, don't minimize it. And I explained to her why. Because here's how my mind works. If you tell me that there's something that you want my help with that's going to take all afternoon, I want to know that ahead of time. Because I want to be able to decide to make that decision. And if I don't want to do that, I want to have the freedom to say, listen, I don't want to do that. I'll do this much or that much, but I'm not going to do all that. So when I ended up doing more than what she was saying, I sat her down and I said, so by telling me it's just 5 minutes, she says, I know, it's just sometimes getting men to do stuff. You just tell them 5 minutes. And I said, I'm not men. I'm not other men. So you don't do that with me. You want me to do something? You tell me. And then I'll tell you whether or not I'm willing to do it. Then, if I know I'm going to spend the whole afternoon doing something I don't want to do, but I'm choosing to do it because I love you, that is my choice. And I can live with that. But if you tell me something and then I find out you're not being completely truthful with me, then I'm going to feel manipulated, and then I'm going to resent you. And the problem with that is that means I put myself in a position to start resenting who? Myself. Because when I get angry, I will be mad at myself because I let myself get talked into something I didn't want to do. And what does that mean? I will cause myself physical, emotional, and spiritual harm. And when I do that, I will invariably harm somebody else at some point in time because that negativity has to go somewhere. So those of you who live like martyrs, who think that you are helping others by stuffing all of your anger, your shame, and your resentment, making yourself sick, you don't know how you are harming everything around you by doing that. And so when you are ruthlessly honest with people about who you are and what you are, you run the risk of having them reject you. Now, I'm really lucky because my girlfriend is an amazing person, and once she saw what I was talking about, she said, you're absolutely right, and I'm going to do that. And she will. I know her. She'll do it. So I'm lucky. Had this been 80% of other women on the planet, it probably would have meant a breakup, because that's just what happens. But the same is true for other people. To the best of my ability, I will never require anybody to do something unless I make it clear. Here's what I want from you. Are you willing to do this? And then they can choose yes or no. This is again the path of Odin. So the assumption, I have to get to this. This is important. When somebody says, but you don't understand, that sounds great, but I can't live just for myself. I have obligations and I have responsibilities to other people. You are assuming that your responsibilities have been thrust upon you without your permission, which is not true. You're not a victim. You're also assuming that it is a black and white decision. You either live for yourself or you live for your responsibilities. When you live for yourself, you will choose which responsibilities and obligations you want to adhere to. And you can do both at the same time without compromising. So again, the second assumption, unconscious assumption, is that, in order to live, to be a responsible person in society, you're going to have to compromise on your true desires. It's not true. So again, it comes back to this idea of a victim. Any of you, if you feel like a victim, I'm going to share something with you. If you feel like a victim by the government, by your family, by your wife, by your husband, by taxes, by anything, if you feel victimized by anything, you are angry and furious at yourself, because you're mad at yourself for allowing yourself to be put in that position. So if you want to find somebody who truly is happy with himself, they will never complain about taxes, about government, about people, about wives, about husbands, because you don't have to live in this country. You can go wherever you want. It may take a lot of work, may be difficult, but you don't have to live here. You don't like paying taxes, go live somewhere else. Or choose to be one of those people that just refuses to pay taxes, but own whatever you do. Don't complain about it. It accomplishes nothing. It is self-destructive. You only destroy yourself. And again, when you destroy yourself, you harm others. You can't harm yourself without harming others. And you cannot empower yourself without empowering others. Now, again, I was talking about my dad. I'll finish this up. My dad died. He died of a horrific illness. My belief, being the shaman, it was self-directed. And he and I did not have a good relationship. We didn't fight with each other, but that disconnect that we had, there was always that awkwardness between us. Even when he was dying of cancer, I remember going to see him, we really had nothing to say to each other. And he died, and I remember having this feeling that he is going to take with him my example. And next time around, assuming he hasn't incarnated already again, next time around, my example will be the seed. So my willingness to sacrifice his love and acceptance is my gift to him, because if I had knuckled under, I would have been co-signing whatever BS that was. And because I refuse to co-sign for my own integrity, when he is reincarnated, he will have that, and an unconscious karmic seed in there that will be giving him and encouraging him to live for his own integrity. This is the power of Odin. You can feel it in what I'm saying right now. I'm speaking with a power and authority that I don't always have. This is Odin talking. So, anyway, I've talked a lot. I want to take your questions. I don't know how many people are on here tonight. Let's see here. How many people do we got? We have, let me put we got a few people here. Let me go back here. How many people we got? 17 people. Did I miss it? Darn. No, yay, thank goodness. All right, Robert Chan. Let's see. Bane Kitten says this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just making everything up. You have the right to have that opinion. Shut up, kitty. Go back to your bridge. I don't know what that means. I guess she's going to jump off the bridge. And I want to know exactly what is a troll. Okay, we'll talk about that. I guess we'll talk about that now. A troll is a thirst, a giant. And this is good because, they're all different kinds of giants. There are, giants like goddesses, like the Mother Earth is a giantess, but we worship her, and she is the mother of Thor, the mother of Thunar. But there are other giants that Thor goes and fights. Now, this is really great because we're talking about, Again, same kind of idea. We're moving again from the Odin perspective to the Thor perspective. Thor, Thunar, is the god of lightning and thunder, which is what? The electromagnetic force. If you don't know what that is, go and Google that. Go and Google what the electromagnetic force is in physics. The electromagnetic force is the imperceptible barrier between the micro and the macro. What is that called? There's the physics that deals with gravity and space and time, and then there's the physics that deals with things at a submolecular level, and the rules don't apply at the submolecular level. They're almost like two different dimensions. But there is one force that straddles them both. That is the electromagnetic force. That is Thor. That's why Thor is the god of boundaries. That's why Thor protects the human race. That's why Thor is protecting Earth. Thor goes off into the east to fight the Thursons, the trolls, what Christians would call the demons. Now, what are they? The giant world represents the Atham force, which is expansive force. The east is also the realm of the identity. So it is important that we have a healthy identity. We have to know who we are, and we have to have boundaries. That's what Thor gives us. That's why the east, if you look at where is it? If you look at the thunder wheel, which I have here, the thunder wheel, the rune wheel, we put the runes onto the thunder wheel. Where does the Thurisaz rune reside? Thurisaz is in the east. And it's on the physical. It's the first 8 of the 3 8s. So we're talking about physical. First 8 is physical, second 8 is psychological, third 8 is spiritual. The first 8, Futhark. The Thurisaz rune is in the physical. That's the god Thor who provides the boundaries. It is the electromagnetic force that keeps my hands from going together, keeps you from falling through into the earth. It is, I don't know how many billions of times stronger than gravity. I don't know what it is, but many, many zeros stronger than gravity. The electromagnetic force is what keeps the sun from burning itself out, because if it weren't for the electromagnetic force, the intense gravity at the center of the sun would force it to burn much faster and brighter. Indra, who is the Vedic god of the same god as Thor, means the same thing. Inthura, Thunar, same deity. The Vedics say that the sun sits in the east and worships Indra to give long life. So the Vedics 4,000 years ago knew that the electromagnetic force was the only thing from keeping the sun from burning itself out. So this is about identity. So Thor is right there in the middle. He's half giant and half god. Now, when we have on the complete other end of the spectrum, we have the Atham energy, which expands and expands and expands, which means the identity that has no awareness of itself. These are Thursons. So these could be spiritual beings. These could be an idea. This could be a human being. Serial killers. They're Thursons. They have no awareness of other people. They, like what are giants in fairy tales? They're these one-eyed, meaning they don't have duality. They can't see the other. They're only involved in themselves. It doesn't mean that their third eye is open. It means that they're just purely focused on their own needs and wants and desires and have no understanding of anybody else. And so they walk around and they pick people off and they bite people's heads off and they stomp on. Those are the Thursons. Those are the giants that Thor fights against. Those are the trolls. So they represent also our unconscious, the lower part of ourself where, like I said before, when you're in survival mode, survival means you're trying to protect yourself at all costs. That's what gives people the ability to kill others, because it's either him or you, it's black and white. So Thor fights that. Thor seeks to destroy that. And that is the closest thing to evil that we have in the Norse mythology is the trolls. So I don't know if I answered your question, but that was a fun one to say. All right. Okay, I'm just reading people's comments and looking for questions I can respond to. Unresolved issues, that's a good way of putting it. A lot of great thank you for everybody saying nice things about me. I appreciate that. How do we reverse the results of our self-imposed negativity? Well, those are two different things. You can reverse self-imposed negativity, which can take a long time, of course. That's the work. I was telling this to somebody, and I've said this numerous times. You know, by the way, those of you who work with me over the phone, personal times, lots of times, again, people will say, you know, I don't know if I should keep going. I'm running out of money, or I just haven't been able to keep up, or whatever. And then we get into this place where you don't know what to talk about, right? That's the time we really get to find out what's in your unconscious. That's when it starts to come up. So we can reverse our self-imposed negativity by becoming more conscious and aware, either through ritual or through discipline or through have it being reflected back to you by a teacher. But in terms of reversing the results, well, the results are the results. You know, there's action and reaction. So there's the consequences of our actions, which we have to live through. So we don't necessarily have the ability to reverse those, but what we can do is we can stop it in its tracks. So now again, let's talk about weird, W-Y-R-D, weird. The three Norns, past, present, and future, which is translated as origins, the ever becoming now, and debt. So interesting that our ancestors knew schuld, the word should. Should I do this? Should I do that? You should do this. Comes from the word schuld, which is the name for the Norn which creates the future. It's our debt. So the future doesn't exist. The future is a result of the actions that we take as a result of the patterns in our origins, in our past. Now, how it becomes a web that you can't get out of is that when you do something based out of fear, negativity, again, for me, it all comes down to one thing. We all want to be loved and we want to survive. And so we adopt, as little kids, we adopt assumptions that aren't true, like the universe doesn't love us, or we're bad people, or whatever it is. And then in order to get mommy and daddy's love, we start acting a certain self-destructive way, right? I shared mine. I wanted my dad's respect, but I wasn't willing to give up, you know, what I wanted to be and do. So when you act against your true soul desire, you create self-imposed negativity, which gets lodged in the past. Now, once it gets lodged in the past, we create a future difficulty, challenge that we'll have to go through as a result of it. And when we bump into that challenge, our habit is to go back to that assumption and keep making that same choice. So this is where consciousness comes in to unravel that. You can't get consciousness without taking action. This is where a lot of psychotherapy misses the boat. Psychotherapy says that if we become aware of our unconscious, we'll be able to work it out, but that's not entirely true. You can become consciously aware of what your issue is. I knew throughout much of my adulthood what my issues were, but I didn't have the power to change things. This is where ritual comes in. You do a ritual, you do a mantra, you do some kind of an action. Those actions, when you keep repeating those difficult actions, it will feel like you are dying. So here we're talking about dying in battle. You keep taking actions that are contrary to your origin issue, and you keep feeling like you're dying, and what ends up happening is that you change that and you create a new assumption. So let me share again in my case. In the book that I shared with you again, I'll show it to you again. In this book, In that book, I believe in that book, I share how, in another instance, my marriage ended up creating a situation for me where I was plagued with age-related illnesses. I had chronic pain. I had a knee that was swollen like a basketball. I had constant back pain, back spasms, sciatica. I had tendonitis. I couldn't pick this up. I'd drop it. I was in so much pain all the time. And I became aware, it finally, because of who I am, I finally got to the point where I realized I was never going to please my wife. She wanted to keep me trapped in her little world, and I didn't fit there. And no matter how much I committed to her, it wasn't enough. And I realized there's nothing to be gained here. And then I said, you know what? I'm losing my life. And I'm thinking, I'm in this much pain now. I'm going to go do all the things I want to do before I'm too old. This is when I was 49. Here I am, 53. 49 years old. And I died in battle. I gave up everything. I divorced her. I walked away from a 2-story home living on a 1/4 acre with my own forest and all that, with my dogs that I loved, my business, my students. I walked away from everything. I had nothing. I had no money. And I went off and lived in the woods for almost a year, and then I moved to Southern California, and 51 years of age and 50 years of age and out of shape and, tendonitis, I started surfing again. And I was willing to die out there. If I drowned out there, I didn't care, as long as I was doing what I wanted to do. But you can imagine all the things in between, the loneliness, the fear, the all that stuff that I went through, consciously dying in battle in order to follow my deepest desire. And what is the result of that? I created new schulds. I created new positive karma, which then I walked into, which was I have better health now than I had in my 20s and 30s. So this is, again, why dying in battle is the secret to health. And our ancestors knew this. That if you are willing to face your fears for your deepest desires, that you would live a healthy life. Now, it's a stretch to say that people who die of illness go to the underworld, which means that if, again, the underworld is the unconscious, the unresolved unconscious issues, that means if people die of illness, and again, I say this wincing because I'm going to have to live up to this. People who die of illness are people who had unresolved issues, and they have to go to the underworld to work through them. So it is a black and white issue, and I'm choosing to believe it on its face. There might be deeper levels I haven't understood, but I'm choosing to believe it on its face, which I think our ancestors were saying, if you live committed to your deepest desires, unflinchingly, and that Odin is there in your soul, in your desires, and that you have an obligation to him to live to your highest, deepest desires. And that when you compromise on that, or even worse, when you walk away from that out of fear of not being loved or accepted, or even out of fear of being killed, then there's only one place for you to go. You got to go to the underworld and work that out. Now, the universe is a forgiving place. As you know, that's not eternal hell. It's not damnation. It's there for you because your soul, in its purest essence, is Odin. That has the same thing. It lives in that intense self-awareness, that fury of self-awareness. And so we incarnate so that the soul can continue to get stronger. And you can't get stronger unless you put barriers in front of it, until you make difficulty. It's like going to the gym. If you want big muscles, you got to lift beyond what you can handle. You got to tear the tissues down so they can build up and get stronger. The soul is the same way. So there was something I wanted to say on the tail end of that, and I can't remember. So if it's meant to come back, Odin, bring it back to me. But let's see. I want to get to other people's questions. Spirit Messiah says, "Sir, could you please give me a mantra that would bring me close to Odin and or Thor?" Yes, I can. I have to look at your chart. So you have to go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. get yourself a Vedic astrological chart from me, and then I can see exactly what your mantra is, which is going to be different than mine, most likely. Because let me explain to you the science behind this, anybody who's interested. By the way, there are plenty of mantras out there. Some of them are all-purpose mantras. Om Namah Shivaya is one example. The Triambakam mantra, those mantras are all-purpose. Anybody can chant them. But when you want to get really specific and get a lot of really powerful results, then you have to get a mantra specifically attuned to you. The way that you do that is you have to look at somebody's Vedic astrological chart for multiple reasons. Number one, I have to look and see which planets are working for you. There's 3 major planets. One is working for your spiritual evolution. One is working for your orlog, your path in this life. And one is working towards your physical and material security. Then you have to take a look and see where your moon is. And where your moon is, there's a specific vibration for you, just for you. And I don't know how many there are, but it's a lot. And so you have to look at that, and you have to look at the other planets, and you have to look then at which deities want to work with you. More specifically, you have to look at the first syllable of the name of the deities. So let's say, for instance, you want to work with the planet Mars. Anybody can give you a Mars mantra, but the deity associated with it, the first syllable, might not fit with you. For instance, with me, I work with Mars. I'm working with Mars right now, but one of the names of Mars that works for me is Angakaraka, because that first syllable of Ah is what vibrates to me. So you have to know that, and then you have to know how that lines up to know which seed sound goes in front of the name of the deity. It's a big thing. When you have that whole thing put together, then it will work for you. But, if you don't have that, it can still work. Sometimes, though, it can actually work against you because, if you don't know what planet you need to work with and what deities you need to work with in that planet, for instance, let's say if I needed to work with Saturn. Well, do I need to work with Kali or do I need to work with Brahma? If I need to work with Brahma and I work with Kali, in fact, I'll give you an example. I did a Kali mantra probably 15 years ago. Then I didn't know any of this stuff. I just grabbed a Kali mantra because I wanted to work with the goddess Kali. And I lived in Idaho, and I went camping in the mountains, and up there you can drive down logging roads for, hundreds of miles and be in the middle of nowhere, and I did that, and everywhere I went, a forest fire sparked up everywhere I went. And I'd go and drive another 100 miles another direction, and I'd chant the mantra, another forest fire. I went home, and I was smelling smoke everywhere I went, and I had my wife at the time, I exhaled out my nose, and she could smell the smoke. I was burning myself up from the inside out. So you have to know this. If you know this, you can get the exact mantra for you. So Spirit Messiah, if you're serious about it, go to astrology.thunderwizard.com and get a Vedic reading from me, and I can give you exactly that. Okay, so Black Earth Productions, saying some good things. He's part of this. Good. Welcome. Sorry, I'm just looking at what other people say. What happened here? I'm looking for a good question here. I want to make sure I get to everybody. Okay. Yes, I did. I did teach a very powerful mudra connected to Thunar. A lot of people didn't like it because I put it straight to, like, you had to spend $25 on it, and people said I was, trying to sell spirituality or whatever. But if you want to, you can go back to Thurisa's mantra. There's a video somewhere, you can find it. If you contact me, I can get you a link to that or work something out. Giants, trolls, etc. sound like the corporations of today. That's a really good analogy. Let me take that a step further, which is that assuming you're right, and I am one who would agree with you, the real question is, why do we have them in our society? Now, if your first response is to talk about what other people are doing, how the elite this, that, or the other thing, then I would suggest we go a little deeper. Everything in our world is our own creation. So if you live in a world where there are evil corporations, guess what? That is something that is manifesting from within you. Listen, I'm talking about me too. I live in an imperfect world, and I have to live by the same thing. I live in a world where there are imperfect corporations out there that destroy the planet. I have to take responsibility that I have manifested that. That represents my own conflict within myself. Because we are all Odin, all of us. We all create our own reality. And if you honestly live, in my belief, if you live in this path of Odin, which is the path of dying in battle every moment to your own deepest truth, your own deepest soul desire, then you can create the reality that you want. At the very least, they won't bother you. I don't spend any time worrying about the government or aliens or, you pick it. They could be very real problems. I don't spend any time worrying about them. Because I know that if any of that I'm speaking like a shaman now, I'm speaking in, I'm not saying it as a fact. If anything like that were to come into my life, it would be because in that instance, I would in that instance be out of alignment with my true self. But I am in this moment in alignment with my true self simply because I'm doing this with you. And I can guarantee you, as a result of me doing this, all kinds of things are going to start come to me right after I finish it. It happens every time. Whenever I take that risk. And what maybe you guys may not know about me, some of you are actually reflecting it back to me. Some of you have been saying, I really like what you're doing. But you have to understand, talking like this, doing these kinds of teachings was not easy for me. It was very frightening. I have a memory of a past life I've shared with you. I was a priest in medieval France, early medieval France. And I was a priest, and I was working with a young girl who we were doing things like healings and all kinds of stuff like that. And I was teaching people this kind of thing, that they had to go against the dogma of the church. And being then at that time, of course, I tried to stay within the confines of the church, and you can't really do that because Christianity is not a very tolerant religion. It's a fundamentalist, exclusive religion, and so I pushed it too hard against the boundaries of that society, and they tore me to pieces. I remember being dragged through the streets of that medieval town. And I'm having a hard time not crying right now. It's an intense experience. I was strung up against a wall, nailed to the door of the church, and they literally tore my flesh off my body. They tore me to pieces. So in this life, whenever I come into this teaching power that wants to come through me, and I struggled with that, and I remember asking myself, why am I so afraid to do this? The first thought that popped into my head was because they'll kill me. I didn't know what that meant. I had to do a journey to remember that. And it was a very, very powerful experience. So me talking like this, me doing this, is me dying in battle. Me being willing to get comments like what's her name says where, I'm making this up, I don't know what I'm talking about. No, that hurts my feelings when I read that. I won't lie to you. It hurts me. I don't want people to say that about me. But anyway, that's nothing compared to being torn apart on the wall of a church. So anyway, so let me see something here. Okay, you have to make yourself happy but not be stupid about it. Now, Alan, I want you to meditate on that. Do you hear the self-directed negativity? You have to make yourself happy but not be stupid about it. I hear a self-judgment in there. I hear a parent shaming a child who wants to do something and your parent says, don't be stupid, don't be silly. Now, I don't know you, so maybe I could be wrong, but that's what I hear when I read that. So I want you to meditate on that. Meditate if what I'm saying to you, and I'm not just talking to Alan, if what I'm saying to you makes you upset, if it angers you, if it makes you feel like I'm criticizing you for being imperfect, it means that you are fighting with yourself about what you truly want. And the only person that you're harming is yourself. The only person you're harming is yourself. I can promise you that the universe only wants your blissful happiness. Now, let me talk to you about, again, I've said that the assumption behind this is that we are born with a soul desire, and our only requirement in this life is to fulfill that soul desire. Now, here's where the video game comes in, if you want to call it the Matrix, of course, which is a two-dimensional symbolic understanding. It's far too superficial for what we're talking about. But the game is this, is that you incarnated with your soul desire, and you also knew that your soul desire, you chose your soul desire because it would force you to go up against risking the expulsion, the rejection, the hurt, the criticism, maybe the death of others, from others. And so it is impossible to go after your soul desire without running into this exact difficulty. At some point you will bump into something and you will have to make a choice between something or somebody else's approval or acceptance, maybe even your own life, or your own true happiness. And if you compromise, if you try to compromise, because that's what I hear what you're saying, Alan, you have to make yourself happy but not be stupid about it. You're saying you have to compromise. Again, I'm only going off what I hear. I could be wrong. But if I'm right, when you compromise, a portion of that is going to be self-directed anger. Always. And remember this. This is what our society teaches us. Our society teaches us that if we live for others and if we sacrifice for others, we will be good people and blah, blah, blah. That's a lie. If you sacrifice for others when it goes against your truth, you will resent them and you will resent yourself, and you will do damage to yourself, and you will at some point do something on an unconscious level damaging to others. You can't get around that. So if your desire is to truly always at all times, 100% of the time, be empowering and uplifting all of society, then you have no choice but to be willing to die for what you truly want at every single moment of your existence. This is what Odin did. He died to himself. It's very clear. This is not an interpretation. Sacrificed himself to himself. I don't know any other god that talks like that. Maybe they're out there. I don't know about them. Living for others, dying for others will kill you and will harm others. And if what I'm saying to you angers you, then I want to help you. It means that you are in conflict with your own soul and you are screaming to find a way to overcome that. That's something that I want to help everybody with. This is what all my work is about. Okay, so let's go. So what else? Is Odin the Viking version of Zeus and Jupiter? No. I talk about this in depth in my other books. No. Odin, Zeus and Jupiter are equivalents to Tiu. It comes from the same root. Tiu, Zeus, Diupeta, Jupiter, Dieus Pita, D. Zeus's name is actually D. We have Tiu. So no, Odin is not the equivalent. We talked about this. I'll talk about it just briefly. Odin became the king of the gods because he sacrificed himself to himself. He represents the human being overcoming being greater than the gods. So that's for another topic. Yeah, Alan. Yep, Alan. Thor is not Zeus, Jupiter, and Indra. No, I'm sorry. I disagree with that. Wotan is more connected with Mercury. That's true. I agree with that. Am I going to the Exodus in the North Pole? I don't know what that means. Okay. Yeah, again, Alan, we're missing each other. So I know that your instinct is to want to defend yourself because, look, listen, if you put a comment on here, you put a question on here, you're asking for my feedback, so I'm going to give it. So I'm not trying to single anybody out or attack them. I want to help you understand. When you say what I mean is avoid excess in the pursuit of pleasure, excess has a judgment attached to it. So excess is like the thirst, the giant, who goes after and destroys. So let me now address this. So thank you for bringing this up. Let me address this. There is a difference between selfishness that destroys, which is what most people associate with the word selfishness. When we say somebody is selfish, we're talking about somebody who's like a thirst, who goes after his own needs and desires and harms other people in the process. Somebody like a serial killer who is not aware of what other people go through. So that's what you're associating when I say selfishness. So I want you to understand this. That selfishness operates from a fear. So when somebody is afraid that the universe will not provide for them, then they go after things, they steal, they cut corners, they lie, they harm others. That is coming from, again, it's not coming from the awareness that the universe loves you and that you have a soul desire which will give you joy. Because when you're operating from your soul desire, when you're in difficulty and challenge, that understanding and that connection to your soul gives you the strength and the faith to go through the difficulty. So again, okay, so you want to talk about it in our next session, we can do that. So anyway, but you brought it up, so I thought I'd address it. All right, so we're coming towards the end. I've done an hour's worth of talking and screaming, so let me see if there's anything that comes to mind here. No, I'm not feeling that. I think I'm feeling the fury dissipate. So I'm going to honor that. I think Odin is done for the evening. For those of you, if you want some deeper musings on these things, I would recommend these books. I'll share with you here. This one here, Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward. I recommend this book. And if you want to understand what I'm talking about when I talk about soul desire, I am going to give you this book to read. It's you might not be able to read it, but it's, I believe the title is The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Okay, so those two books, if you want to understand soul desire, look at The Shamanic Secret Commandment. If you want to understand why Odin hates Christianity, read the Odin book. But let me be clear about that again. Odin is not, this isn't about the northern path versus others, or, you know, my ethnic gods. It's not about none of that garbage. Odin loves all religions that come from an organic shamanic place. Any religion, any philosophy, I don't even care if it's atheist or whatever, if it comes from the awareness of being true to yourself at all times. Odin loves that. What he hates is any belief that tells you as a human being that you are less than divine. Any belief system that attacks you or demeans you. And this is what is meant when, our ancestors refused to bow to anybody, even to the gods. It doesn't mean that in ritual you wouldn't bow or give yourself to a deity. It means that we don't see ourselves as less than anything. That as Odin is, we are chief, even greater than the gods. And the way that you achieve that state of being greater than the gods, which means the gods serve you. This is important. The gods will serve you if you live in accordance and alignment with your true identity, your integrity, your soul desire. And if you are willing to make your soul desire the most important thing in the universe, and when you are confronted with the choice of loving yourself or seeking the acceptance of love of others, if you choose yourself, the gods will serve you. So will people, by the way. So, anyway, that's it for now. I'll put some links here at the end. If you want to buy my books, you go to michaelwilliamdenny.com. Denny is spelled D-E-N-N-E-Y. If you want to find all of my videos, you can just go to Amazon and just type in my name, Michael William Denny, and everything should come up. If you want a rune reading, one of these 9 world rune reading casts that look like this, that is a really powerful reading. Those of you who have gotten one from me know, because it helps me look exactly at what's happening to you right now. It'll tell me where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, what runes. It'll also give me a rune prescription. I'll be able to tell you which runes you can focus on and what to do, what actions to take, whether it's your unconscious that's being affected, your subconscious, your superconscious, your identity, your relationships, your connection to the ancestors. I can tell from that what's happening with you at any given moment. If you want one of those, go to runereadings.thunderwizard.com. Let's see, if you want to be a part of the Master Shamanism course, where you'll get access to private videos for every month, then just go to thunderwizard.com. If you want the most powerful energy practice on the planet, I don't know about the planet, in my experience, if you want the most practical energy, the most powerful energy practice on the planet, then I would suggest getting Celestial Qigong. This is what the DVD looks like. And I think that's it for now. Any questions, of course, yeah, if you have any questions about any of the videos, put them in the video comments section. People contact me sometimes on email with a specific question about a video, and I prefer to take it in there. If you are my private student, you work with me privately, you can contact me directly with a question about something. One of these days I got to put a package together, but my suggestion is, if you really want my help but you're not able to become one of my apprentices, I would suggest getting a rune reading and a Vedic astrological reading, because the two of those things together, I can really nail down specific things you can do to achieve things beyond your wildest dreams, in my experience. All right, so let me see if I missed any questions. Alan says, how do you learn your soul desire? I can share that with you, but get the book, The Shamanic Secret to a Perfect, Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Easy. The short answer is you already know it. You're just fighting with it. So if you really listen to yourself, you'll know it. But I'm happy to help you with that. So that may be something we can do in a session. Yeah, when somebody says, I don't know what I want in life, now I know. See, now this is why this question brings up so much resistance in you. It's because that tells me that you have a conflict with meeting other people's expectations, whether that's just in your head or whether these are actual people in your lives, in your life. There's a conflict within you. You're trying to meet other people's expectations of what they think you're supposed to be or what you think they want you to be and what you truly want. And when that happens, we tend to not see what it is our true desire is. So the good news is, and anybody else listening, it's an easy fix. It might be painful, might be challenging, but it's an easy fix, and once you know, you can go in that direction and you can solve it. So that's the good news. You can fix it, and I can help you with that. Anything else? Nope, no other questions here. Listen, thank you all. First off, let me thank you for your bravery in being a part of this. Thank you for being willing to share with me. What you may not know is how much you give to me. By allowing me to be a part of this process, I get to be there with Odin as he achieved his awareness, because that's what is happening. When you work through these issues, and I don't care how mundane or little you think they are, when you work through these issues and you die in battle to them and achieve victory, it's as valuable to me as watching Odin achieve his own awareness. And that is how amazing and wonderful you are. This is the message of Odin. And I'm getting emotional now. The message of Odin is that there is nothing in the entire cosmos or any of the infinite numbers of universes that exist. There is nothing more amazing, more divine, more wonderful, more powerful than your own soul. Nothing. And that is why, again, Odin has such disdain for any religion that demeans human beings. Because even the gods, when a human being achieves his or her highest awareness, the gods must bow to you. And we do a tremendous disservice not only to ourselves but to the universe when we act against that, when we harm ourselves. The good news is, though, it's okay. That's what this life is all about. You have to make that mistake. You can't learn until you make mistakes, so the mistakes are part of it. This isn't Christian perfectionism. But again, I just want to, at the same time, it is not a meaningless battle. Everything we go through, even if it's trying to work out details with our girlfriends or our wives about how to feel comfortable in the relationship, is about dying in battle. Or if it's going up against an evil empire and dying for the cause of liberty or whatever, it's all the same to the soul. It's all the same. Okay. All right, then that's it for you, my friends. Now let me get myself prepared here so I can exit gracefully. Let me see, how do I want to exit? I think I'm going to exit with that little video right there. So, my friends, again, thank you so much for the privilege of being a part of this journey with you. Thank you for honoring your souls. Those of you who come to me and stay with me, you're doing it because you're following what they're wanting to come, the gods are wanting to say through me, which means you're wanting to follow the gods. And I honor and respect your power. I am in awe of your power. And I acknowledge that. And may you find the ways where you can experience the awe of yourself. Because when you do that, you will empower others to find the awe within them. And when we all achieve that, then we'll have to create a whole new universe. So, again, that's it for now. Let me see if there's anything else that I missed here. Doesn't look like it. Yep, people are just saying thank you. So until next time, my friends, may the power of Odin, Vili, and Ve be inflamed and explode from within. Blessings.